You are now tuned in to the AddictedToSuccess.com podcast, where geniuses, entrepreneurs, and next-level game changers share their juicy little secrets on achieving massive success. This is the advice you wish you heard years ago. Be prepared and take note as we expose the realness and the raw of what it takes to be successful on AddictedToSuccess.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Joel Brown. I'm here with Emil Steenveld, and we have a special guest this evening. We have Robin Sharma, who is the best-selling author of The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, the leader who had no title, and he just launched the 5 a.m. Club, which we're so excited to dig into. Robin, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for the invitation, and great to be with you both.
I've listened to The Monk That Sold His Ferrari, and I absolutely loved it. So I'm super excited to really get deeper with you about the 5 a.m. Club and really understand what is the process you went through to get this book out there into the hands of people and to be actionable.
Well, you know, I've been teaching morning routine and the 5 a.m. Club for over 22 years, Emil. You mentioned, thank you for your kind words about The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. There was a chapter in there about the ritual of early rising. So I've been evangelizing the importance of a morning routine and a calibrated morning routine for many years. And most of us now know the reason why. The mother of all habits, I believe, is starting your day well. So in many ways, it's the one move that if you do it, will take care of every other move. Rising at 5 a.m. and then running in the book what I call the 20-20-20 formula, which is the first pocket moving, the second pocket reflecting, the third pocket growing. In terms of my process for writing the book, it was a messy, dangerous, terrifying, mystical, satisfying, beautiful process. Like any important creative project that we all are blessed to do. I wrote the book over 4 years. I wrote it in Mauritius. The first chapter, or the second chapter of the book is set in Mauritius. So I wrote it in Mauritius. I wrote it in St. Petersburg, Russia. I wrote it in Sao Paulo, Brazil. I wrote it in Canada, Switzerland, and a lot of the book was in Rome. And yeah, I just think if you look at the great geniuses of the world, I'm not suggesting I'm a great genius of the world, but if you look at the Shakespeares and the Einsteins, and if you look at the Jean-Michel Basquiats and the Picassos, they all have one thing in common, which is incredibly important for all your viewers from around the world, which is the essence of genius is isolation. And in the 5 a.m. Club, there's actually a model called transient hypofrontality, which explains our neurobiological gift. We all have this. We're in isolation, away from distraction. Our brain waves shift from alpha right down to possibly theta, and we access the genius that lives inside every brain. So that's a little bit about my process and the importance of getting away from distraction if you want to do your best work.
That's amazing.
Awesome stuff. Robin, if you were able to just pick, let's say, one chapter or one section of a chapter that you felt was so profound, because you've taken 4 years to write this. Yeah. There must be something in there that you got so excited about that you would love for the world to hear. If you could just share one thing, what would that be?
Well, there's a lot, but the essence of the 5 a.m. Club is the 20-20-20 formula that I've been teaching for so long. And I'll just show you. The book has a bunch of models. And what I've done right there is I've deconstructed the 20-20-20 formula so people know exactly what to do at 5 a.m. to 6 o'clock. I called that the victory hour, Joel. And the quote that's relevant is the Spartan warrior quote. And it's sweat more in training and you'll bleed less in war. Now, a lot of people go, Rob, right? There's a lot of people go, Robin, I'm busy. I'm a hedge fund manager. I coach a lot of billionaires and NBA superstars. I don't have time to work on my mindset. And I'm introducing 3 new words, by the way. Everyone's talking about mindset. Well, in the book, there's a model: mindset, heart set, health set, and soul set. And we can talk about that because they're disruptive and they're incredibly important.
Yes, I like that.
The larger point, though, is for anyone who says, I don't have the time to get up to join your 5 a.m. club, Robin, and run the 20-20-20 formula because I'm busy. Well, getting up in the morning and preparing your mindset, grounding to your values, building inner peace, calibrating energy, optimizing your brain, what's more important than that if you want to get the best out of the coming hours? So a lot of people in the world right now are busy being busy versus monomaniacally focused on the few things that are going to allow them to dominate their domain.
Yep. This day and age, we have so much distractions around us. Like, you took 4 years to write this book. What was your process like to stay focused, to stay on the journey? And did you fall off many times? And what was your process of bringing yourself back?
Well, there's a line in the 5 a.m. club that I think might resonate. Two I'll offer to you. Number one is an addiction to distraction is the death of your creative production. Mm-hmm. Number two, you can, your phone is costing you your fortune. So we know we live in a world right now where people have tapped into the dopamine cycle. So we're addicted to white screens. And I'll put it to you this way, with great respect and love for all of the primal genius inside all of your viewers, which is, you've got to break. Technology is an absolutely amazing lever or servant, and it's a very terrifying and tyrannical master. And there are a lot of people who are spending the best hours of their days and they're literally addicted to the process of checking for likes. What was my process? When I was in Rome, I would get out, I would go for a mountain bike ride just to optimize the brain and to reduce the cortisol, the fear hormone, and to get my energy levels and just to connect with nature. And there's a lot of good science coming out. When you connect with nature, your brain waves do shift and you reconnect with peace and you prepare yourself for a productive day. And then I would get back to my hotel room, which is this very charming little room in Rome, where I could get fresh air coming in and I could see a lot of the great Roman structures, because I believe art inspires creativity. And so the more you can be around beauty, the more the beauty is going to infuse your consciousness, and then you're going to write. And then to share very personally, I would do a prayer. I believe intentions are incredibly important. And I believe, the response to the 5 a.m. club so far, it's only been out a few weeks. It's number one in India, it went number one in Serbia. It's just like skyrocketing like nothing I've ever seen. But even more importantly, the reader responses are very, very profound. And I think that's because I wrote with the intention to serve and with love. And so I would actually, before starting the writing process each day, I would imagine people reading the book and their luminosity and their primal greatness, starting to see the light of day. And as they went through the pages, they would start to remember the inner hero inside of them and reconnect with their best. And then I would start writing, and I wouldn't eat. Fasting served me incredibly well because we waste a lot of time eating.
Yeah, it's true.
Absolutely.
Right? And I find when I'm in, and I'm not recommending it, everyone has to figure out their own methods. But I find when I'm in a fasted state, my brain is so monomaniacally focused. My energy is amazing. It's when I eat, my energy goes down. And I would sit there for sometimes 8 hours in a row without really moving, and I would just write. I'd go into what Csikszentmihalyi called the flow state. And some days I was so spent after writing, I would have to call room service. I hope you don't mind me sharing this. I'm very passionate about it.
So go ahead. This is so interesting. We love talking about flow state, and 8 hours, Robin. That's insane.
I would just go into in the 5 a.m. club. The end of the book it's about it's a story, and I can tell you about the characters. But there's this billionaire, quirky tycoon. And towards the end, he talked about how the billionaires of the world and the great geniuses of the world entered a secret order of creativity, productivity, and prosperity. And he calls it the magic. Well, I can tell you, I lived in that magic for a lot of writing the 5 a.m. club. And I'd be so spent after writing because it was so such sweaty work that I would call the front desk, could you please clean my room? And I'd walk down to the streets of Rome, and I'd have to touch the Roman stone just to ground, because I was in such another world after the writing. And I'm not special. This is available to all of us, and I teach people how to do it in great depth in the 5 a.m. Club.
Huh. How long did it take you to get into the process of actually knowing when you're going to get into that flow state?
You know when you're in it.
Yeah. But is there a way where you're like, okay, I know this is going to take me about an hour or half an hour, or there's a certain amount of struggle? Because I know that some people will, even with meditation and sitting, like I know when I'm meditating, I sit for a minute, and then after about 10 minutes, I finally settle and I know I'm in it. How long does it take to get you into that flow state though?
Well, my creativity is not linear. And for those people who I've heard about it, I think it was Ernest Hemingway or someone said, I'm discipline comes once in a while. Luckily, mine shows up at 5 a.m. every morning. I think that was Ernest Hemingway.
Hemingway also said, "Write drunk, edit sober."
Well, that's why when I said what I was going to say is I don't know how true that was for Ernest Hemingway, because from what I heard, I don't think he was up at 5 a.m. doing planks and meditating. And he was recovering from going to sleep an hour earlier. So that's sort of my creative process. Is not every single day I sit down and the muse just shows up. Over the 4 years of writing the 5 a.m. Club, that's why I say it was messy. I mean, some of the book was actually written in Paternoster, South Africa. Huh. And I still remember when I was in Paternoster, it's this amazing little seaside town, and I'm next to the Atlantic Ocean. I've got this little cottage. I mean, it's very romantic. And I'm sitting there freezing. It was just freezing, and nothing was flowing. And what I was writing was just nothing I had ever put my name onto. So I just find there's a natural order to your best creativity. And you have to trust it. And that's one of the things I notice in the world right now is everything is system, this and rise and grind. And for me, I say with a lot of respect, it's a much more natural process than that. In the book, one of the things that really helped me is there's a model called the twin cycles of elite performance. You can see it, but it's based on how the top athletes and the most creative people in the world do it. And there's two cycles. One is called the high excellence cycle. And so that's like a season when you're up at 5 a.m., you're in the 5 a.m. club, you're fasting, you're doing this, you're running all your systems and protocols, and you're like a warrior. And then after you do that, it's really important to recover. Otherwise, you deplete your assets. So I run my life like the high excellence cycle. It could be a month, it could be 3 months. And then I go into the deep recovery cycle, which is reading the classics like I did over the holidays, Fahrenheit 451. And I take more time to rest and longer dinners. And you can even do it every day. You've got your intense hours, and then you've got your hours to go walk in nature and enjoy time with your friends. And so if you look at the research, and the Energy Project has done a lot of great research on it, the most productive people and the best performers, they work in intense bursts of great work, and then they recover, because the essence to legendary is longevity. And if you burn your assets out, you don't get to stay in the game very long.
Yeah, that makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. So, Robin, one of the questions I really wanted to ask you, it's been burning on my mind for a while, because I love what you've done with the monk who sold his Ferrari. I love that it's a fable, right? It's like a lesson or many lessons within a story that you've created. I love the creativity behind it, and I want to know, how do you, what goes through your mind in that time where you're like, okay, here's the character, here's a lesson that I want to portray, this is how the story is going to go. How was that process? Because I know there's a lot of people that want to write stories like this or fables like this, because I think the best way to learn is through story. What was that process, so we can understand your state of mind?
Sure. Well, in the monk who sold his Ferrari, which I wrote, I wrote that, it was 30 years ago. Hold on, is that right? 1998. You guys wouldn't remember that. You probably heard that year. It was a time back in the ancient ages. Anyway, that's an old book, but I don't know. A lot of that book just flowed out of me. Even the 5 a.m. Club, I didn't have an outline. Probably on the next book I'll have an outline. And the 5 a.m. Club is a story as well. And I'd actually love to talk about that more, not because I want to promote it, but I'm just passionate about that book, the new book. I'll do whatever you guys want to do, but the 5 a.m. Club it's also storytelling, and it starts off. There's the first chapter is this entrepreneur, and she has this startup, and she's doing incredibly well, and she's thinking of taking her life. And rather than taking her life, she notices on her dresser there's a ticket to a personal optimization conference. And she decides to make the choice to grow herself, to find her salvation. She ends up at this conference who the speaker is called the Spellbinder. And she meets an artist who she's sitting next to. A little bit of a love story in this book, by the way, just so you know. And while after the conference is over, this tramp, this hobo, this weird avocado-eating homeless man comes over and says, if you like the part the Spellbinder talked about morning routine, how about if I send you my jet? And they're just going, this guy is loco. But they say yes, and that's the beginning of the entire story. I didn't have an outline for the book in terms of my creative process. I just let the characters evolve, and I really fell in love with the characters. And it sounds bizarre, but when I finished the book, there's a surprise ending. When I finished the book, I cried.
Oh, wow.
So I really got close to, especially Mr. Riley, the homeless guy. I mean, he's an industrialist, he's a philanthropist, he's a bon vivant, and he's a great human being. And I think we live in a world right now where, you probably know about my Titan Summit, and, I work with a lot of very heavyweight entrepreneurs on the planet, and NBA stars and movie stars, etc. But what's the point of success if you don't have soul? And so Mr. Riley, the billionaire character in the 5 a.m. Club, he's got a lot of money, but he's got a lot of heart as well.
I can't wait to read this.
Yeah, me too. That's a really great point, because we speak to a lot of people about success, and the biggest thing we find with our clients and especially millionaires is that they reach such a point, but then they miss the point about themselves, which you spoke about, which is the soul. And it's so good to hear you speak about this, because it's such a needed topic. Like, it needs to be put out there this year more and more, because of the fact that people are consistently burning out and going into mental health, and it's growing at such a rapid rate.
Emil, you're absolutely right. It seems like the dominant message out there is, in some ways, drive yourself into the ground, make sure you get your yacht, get your fortune, and all will be happy. Well, in my experience, I've worked with a lot of billionaires, and there are a lot of rich people, and money is all they have.
Yeah.
And I've met a lot of very successful people, and they're just full of insecurity. It's like, who's going to knock me off my game? They become addicts. It's like they've got 100 million, but someone else has 200 million, so they never get to enjoy their success in any way. Roosevelt said, comparison is the thief of joy. And so what I'm trying to do in the 5 a.m. Club is offer, I believe, a powerful model. It's called the 4 Interior Empires. And it's not just about success, and it's not just about mindset, because so many people are saying mindset is everything. You've probably seen those posts all over. Right there.
Everywhere.
But just, if I may, I'd just love to share why I don't think mindset is everything. Well, mindset is your psychology. That's your belief system. Of course, You've got to have beliefs of abundance and service and beliefs of grit and beliefs, the right beliefs that will allow you to install the right morning routine and get great things done. And you need a great, strong psychology. There's no question. But that's only 25% of the personal mastery equation. I'm also introducing a word called heart set. Because you can have a great psychology, but if you haven't worked on your heart set, you're full of pain because of your broken relationships or the people who betrayed you. You're full of sadness because of your difficult past. You're full of anger or toxic emotions. Well, you can have a great psychology, but the word I use in the 5M Club is emotionality. Your emotionality is a mess. You're not going to be creative because it'll be blocked. You're not going to be productive. You're not going to be radiating positivity so your clients and the world falls in love with you. You're going to be toxic. So it's mindset and heart set, but that's only two of the four interior empires. The third is health set. If you don't have vitality, if you don't know how to manage your energy, if you don't live long, if you die, you're not going to change. Dead people don't change the world.
This is true.
Right? So you can have great ambition and opportunities. If you don't have what I call execution energy, nothing gets done. So third interior empire, health set. And then the fourth one, and people, this might be a little dangerous, but I'm just going to share my truth. And this is why I believe the book is going to radically give people exponential performance and exponential success. Because it's not just mindset, it's mindset, heart set, health set, and soul set. And you're right, Emil. Soul set is such a key word because soul set is not only about, finding beauty in your days and being soulful while you build your empire. Soul set is doing the inner work at 5 a.m. to 6 a.m., doing the inner work required to reduce your insecurity and the chattering voice of your ego so you connect with your bravest, wisest self, and then go out in the world. And the gentleman behind you is one of my great heroes. And the last chapter of the book is actually set on Robin Island.
Oh, wow.
And so when you work on your soul set, you walk out into the world and you're not living for your own little self. You are a titan of humanity, whether it's your business or your teacher or your pizza maker, and you're working for the world. Because as I say in the book, ultimately, we work for the world. And that's what made Nelson Mandela great. He accessed that higher part of himself and he lived for it.
Yeah. And if you're listening right now on the podcast and you can't see the man behind us, Emil he actually had it custom painted. He had a picture and had it put together. And on the quote, it says, what does it say, Emil?
It says, I never lose. I either win or I learn.
Yeah. Great lesson.
He was a man speaking about what makes a real hero and what real success is. And my life changed when I stood in his prison cell roughly 3 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And for all of your listeners and viewers, I would say, as soon as possible, take the ferry ride over to Robin Island and take the tour and stand in his prison cell. And in the 5 a.m. Club, I actually write about the day they took Nelson Mandela out of his prison cell and they asked him to dig a grave. And he obviously thought he was going to be put in the grave and killed. And instead, the prison guards urinated on him. And I stood in the limestone quarry where for 10 years he chipped away at stones that damaged his eyes and his lungs. And he had no purpose because they didn't use the limestone for anything. It was just part of the torture. Oh. And I stood in the showers where the guide said, Mr. Mandela was a very elderly man when he was here. And while he would shower, the guards would stand and watch him shower and laugh at him. And yet when Nelson Mandela was released from prison, I believe it was 91 or 92, with South Africa on the brink of civil war, he invited the jailer who had kept him in prison to his inauguration. And he was asked, why would you do? And he actually, the prosecutor who had asked for the death penalty at his trial, he took him to dinner. And he was asked, why would you do that? He said, because if I didn't, I'd still be in prison.
Yeah.
there's different levels of success.
Cheers.
Well, that's why he's one of the great men, and there's been a lot of great women of the world.
Yeah.
He walked his talk. He did something that was considered heroism, but he also did it for his people. He had a bigger purpose. And I think even when you're writing your book, like, you had your intention of a bigger purpose. How do I serve more people? How are they going to feel when they read my book? And that's really good to hear, and really amazing, because that would have broke down half of the stories and the ego trying to tell you, oh, I need to be like this, or I need to be like my other books.
Yeah, it's a trust walk. It's a leap of faith. When you stop thinking about selling lots of books and making money in your business, and you get monomaniacally focused and develop an obsession bordering on a possession to give your customers and those you serve ridiculous levels of value. You got to trust. A lot of us read it. Oh, we talk it. If you actually work on your heart set, that's the power of heart set. When you actually come from your heart and soul, that I'm going to put out work in my business or in my life that's going to serve the world. There's a line in the 5 a.m. Club, which is, when you put out magic, the world replies with magic. If you actually believe that, magic will infuse your life. And it is about saying, how can I help people through the work I do and the person I become? And when you do that, life has a very fair accounting system, and it's not mystical, it's just truth. And good things happen to people doing great things.
Yeah. Ooh, that's nice. That's a good quotable right there. I love that, Robin. Awesome. Robin, I want to go deep on this one. I know that you're pretty open to us like taking it where we need to. And if it's too personal, let me know. I would like to know, from your personal experience, romantically, relationship-wise, I know that you're very committed to your craft. I know that you're in the 5 a.m. Club. You're in states of flow, writing a book and everything. How has this been for you as an entrepreneur and as a speaker and author going through this process? Because I know so many people contact us at Addicted to Success. I'm getting asked all the time, how do I harmonize my life, and how do I create balance when it comes to my relationship, but also be committed to the vision?
That's a very good question. I think you talk about romantically, it's important to pick a partner who gets you.
Yeah.
A partner who loves you for who you truly are. So I'm blessed to have a partner who understands that I'm an artist and understands that I'm on a mission to serve as many people as possible. And she finds that attractive versus it making. Is this helpful for me to get in?
This is so helpful. I mean, we're in the same boat, because it's like we sometimes have conversations of like, man, I wonder if there is. It's like we know there is, but it's like I wonder, we come across someone that understands that we have a big vision for what we're creating. Yes. And sometimes, being honest, Robin, sometimes I don't create the space for a relationship.
Right.
I've got to be honest with myself, be like, oh, I'm not really creating that. So how can I want it if I haven't created it, right?
Yeah, and I'll be just as honest and say, I was flying from Kruger National Park to White River in South Africa. And I was in a little plane, and the pilot said, hey, do you want to get behind the wheel? Or not the wheel, it tells you how much I know about flying. Get behind and so what I realized is the wind would take us off course, and there was like an altimeter or whatever it's called. It would go like this, and then I'd have to bring it back. And the entire time I was flying, it was a struggle to keep the plane on course. And so that's life. That's just, anyone who tells you balance, it's just every single day you're off balance like that plane in South Africa. And so it's the very nature of a business builder and a history maker and a person that wants to do amazing things in the world. You're constantly navigating, how do I isolate myself and do amazing work and dial into what I called into the book, what's called transient hypofrontality. I mean, a lot of the book, there's actually a section, the 10 rituals of daily genius. Okay. When you live in that way, you're going to be a freak. You're going to do amazing work. You're going to get amazing things done. But, Woz and Jobs and Shakespeare and Elon Musk and Rosa Parks and Coco Chanel, they were all freaks. So your family and your friends are going to wonder what's going on. And that's the price that you have to pay if you want to make a big difference in the world. And so to answer your question in the sense of like romance, I would say you want to find someone who goes, I adore you for your ambition to own your domain and change the world. I wish there were more people like that on the planet. Whatever you need from me, I am there. That's the first thing. With children, I've got two amazing children. I always spend a ton of time with them. How did I do it? It gets down to my weekly planning process, and very quickly on Sunday morning, I pull out a big piece of paper. I call it my blueprint for a beautiful week. And all the rituals I teach in the book, like the second wind workout, the 2 massage protocol, the 60-minute student. I mean, these are profoundly valuable rituals that I've taught to my titans and my icons for many years. And I share them all in the book. Those actually go onto the written schedule. Like my 2 massages go there. My family dinners, they go there. My 5 a.m. clubs, they go there. My ski lesson, so I can become a better skier, goes there. My business meet, my podcast interviews go there. And literally, you let it out of your brain, and your whole balanced week gets onto a written schedule, and then you just lock and load every day.
I like this actually. Emil and I live in Bali, Indonesia. Have you been to Bali before?
You know, I have not, and I've heard about it for so many years that it's like an amazing place.
You're invited. You're invited. It's amazing.
I'll come. I heard the vibration there is incredible.
It's insane. We get like $10 to $15 massages, and we make it a thing to do that. And Emil has a pretty interesting schedule, pretty interesting habits that he jumps into.
Yeah. So I'm like listening to your story, and I'm vibing so hard off it, because it's like I love habits, and I love the fact that it's like when you can create it and then you follow through with it, and then you kind of split test it, I call it, where you're like, how do I feel about this? And then you take things in and you put things out. And so what I do is like, I'll train. Right now I'm trying to train 5 times a week. Then I go to this place which is called Amo Spa in Chengdu, and you have like a spa, sauna, steam room, ice bath. And that's my recovery. And that's my time to like really just think and just sit. And I do that for an hour after each time I train. And then we have a masseuse therapist like that comes to the house once a week. And that's my time again to reflect and give myself back to recovering and away from clients and stepping away from that. As well as I have a pup. So we walk the pup on the beach. And that's my connecting to nature and grounding myself, like bare feet. And it makes the biggest difference. And what people need to get is that if they're not getting in nature, they need to, because the vibration that it serves, it's unexplainable, but I just know I feel amazing every single time after doing it.
Wow. It sounds like you're really dialed into your routine. I mean, you know, the recovery is so important. Did you say pup or pub?
Pup.
Because after the ice bath and after the sauna, I have a pub and I go recover.
Well, we are Aussies, so you probably.
That's a great routine. No, that's really. I mean, bravo to you for having that kind of a routine, because we all know about sauna and ice baths and fasting and recovery, and that is so important, because one of the lines that I share in the work is elite performance without active recovery leads to depletion. And so it's so counterintuitive, and you both clearly know this, but I have a rule called the 5 great hours rule. And if you could just work 5 great hours every day, intense, sweaty, brilliant, put your best into those 5 hours, then go take your sauna, get a massage, go for a mountain bike ride, because you've already done more real work versus fake work than most people do in a month. And if you want to play the long game, because when you look at the legends, they have one thing in common. They weren't world class for a little window of opportunity. They were world class for a lifetime.
Yes.
You know, yes. I mean, I read Animal Farm over the holidays. George Orwell two classics. Animal Farm, 1984. And if you look at the great legends in music and film and the arts and humanities, they sustained world class. And that's, one of the key things that is important to do if you really want to make a big difference. And you don't get to legendary if you can't sustain not only your energy and your health, but your craft over the long game. A lot of people, they'll write one book or do one film or launch one piece of code and it disrupts the industry and you never hear from them again. It's because they depleted their assets and they lost the fire in their belly to keep going.
Yeah, I love that you're saying this. There's an artist actually out your way, because I know you're from Canada. His name's Drake, the R&B.
Of course, yeah, he lives in my city.
Oh, he does, in Toronto. There you go. So, and I'm inspired by his relentless pursuit for putting out his music and his art. And I remember him saying so often in interviews that he just tunnel vision focuses. He has this black hole focus. And, he has his do not disturb sign on often. He turns his phone off. He goes into the studio and he said he's so excited to be in the studio that he's more excited to be there than to be at home. And he goes through moments where he doesn't look at anybody's stuff. He doesn't go online. He just creates. And it seems to be this pattern that I'm seeing from all these geniuses and these greats that you've got to be by. So like Nikola Tesla as well, same thing. Just this black hole focus.
There's a concept that's really, really important why that works. And everyone, the gift of a human being, I think this is really important. The gift of a human, the gifted people on the planet have the same gift you have, Emil has, I have, and all of your listeners and viewers have. And it's a brain that can go into a state called transient hypofrontality. So when you mentioned Drake, the reason why Drake isolates himself and the reason why Tesla isolated himself, the reason why Edison had his Menlo Park is because when you isolate yourself from distraction and interruption, you drop into this state. I don't know if you can see it, transient hypofrontality.
Oh, that's like the flow state, right? The start of flow state, or
the start is the 5 a.m. club.
Yep.
And the 20-20-20 formula. And literally, I walk readers through how to build flow state to get into transient hypofrontality. So I explain, I call it the secret of morning genius in the book. And that's why there's a concept that you're speaking to. I call it the tight bubble of total focus. And so what happens is when Drake gets into the studio, or when Edison and his band of his little team would go up to Menlo Park, their little lab, they would divorce themselves for the world. They'd sleep, in 4-hour segments. We all heard about how their sleep patterns. And there was no distraction. And because there was no distraction, the very gift that we all have in our brains, transient hypofrontality. What does that mean? It means the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of our brain that's chattering, our intellectual brain. And right, you couldn't do this. What would people think? Transient, for a short period of time, transience, it shuts down. And literally, we get out of the thinking brain and into the deeper brain, which releases dopamine and serotonin and creates a pharmacy of mastery that gets us into flow state. So that's why all the most productive people and the true legends understood that you can be in the world 24/7, or you can be in the wilderness and change the world. You can't do both.
Yeah, I love this. Drake was also saying he get invited all the time to these red carpet events and to the club, and he's like, unless it's about business, I'm not there.
Right.
So it is, right? Yeah, you got to have that on your mind. Yeah.
I love that you have actionable steps throughout this book.
Yeah.
I find it super important because you're giving them the tools for them to actually implement in this. And sounds like you've simplified every single part of it.
Yeah, it only took me 22 years to make it simple.
Yeah. It makes me want to read it 10 times more now, just because of the fact that you have actionable steps that we can implement straight away.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, they're not only actionable, they've been proven in the lives of many of my highest level clients. So this isn't a book report from 2 or 3 books I've read. This is the 5 AM Club is my life work put into 333 pages. And that's why it took me 4 years to write the book, because I wanted every line to be perfect, but I wanted every model to be perfect. And you're right, Emil, it's not only, there's a lot of philosophy, because you need the ideas, you need the ideology, right, on how the great women and men of the world do it, how geniuses did it. So there's a lot of philosophy on that. But then there's what I call, the actionable technology, the tactics. Those are the 10. It's not only the 5 AM Club method and the 20-20-20 formula, which is, it's going to change people's lives, right, who haven't applied it. Because when you do own your morning, your days are fundamentally different. And when your days are different, your weeks are better. And when your weeks are better, your quarters are better, and your years are better, and your decades are better. The one move that changes every move and lifts every other move is getting into the 5 AM Club and getting that first hour of the day where you work on your mindset, heart set, health, and soul set. But then it's the other 10 rituals of daily genius, and those are tactics. The second wind workout, what that's all about is, if you believe exercise makes you more creative, productive, and prosperous and happy, which you can't argue with that, why would you only do it once a day? So there's a second wind workout. And you'll love this one, both of you. One of them is the 2 massage protocol. Twice a week, a 90-minute, 2 times a week, a 90-minute workout. And what does it do to and there's science in there, what does it do to your energy, your peace of mind, your creativity? So there's a lot of tactics in the book as well, so people get real results.
Yeah, I love this, because when people can understand the benefits of doing something, they're going to be more committed to doing it, right? So Robin, where can we get your book?
So it's pretty simple, Joel. It's the 5amclub.com. the 5amclub.com. It's rolling out around the world. I know it's in Australia. I know it's in your part of the world, Indonesia and Malaysia, et cetera, et cetera. It's all around the world in bookstores, and it's in audiobook form. The reader, Adam Werner, did a beautiful job bringing the characters to life. And the good news as well is, you mentioned the importance of tactics. I've seen a lot of books where people say, they read the book and then they drop off the wagon because they lost their inspiration. So in the end of the book, there's actually a calibrated world-class 66-day, because 66 days is what the research says is the amount of time needed to install a new habit. So there's a free 66-day online course that's mentioned at the end of the book that all readers can get into, where they get morning meditations from me for 5 AM, coaching videos where I walk them through the models in the book, and I literally support them with a community for 66 days at no charge. And I think it's also important for me to mention, a portion of the royalties from every copy of the 5 AM Club will go to my children's foundation to help children with leprosy. It's a very tragic disease, and it's a very violent disease, and I want to do my part to fight leprosy on the planet. So when people invest in the 5 AM Club and their own personal transformation, they're going to be investing and helping children who are in need.
So Robin, we've got one more question. So you mentioned there were 10 rituals, right? 10 powerful rituals. I would love if you're listening right now to this or watching this right now, I want you to take your pad and your pen out, because everything moves and we start connecting the mind and the body and start writing it out and declaring, right? Making commitments. I want you to listen very closely to what Robin shares here, and then at least commit to, what would you say, Robin, 1 or 3 of those rituals? Like, what would be a good place to start?
Well, I would say the first thing to commit to is to believe in yourself when no one in the world believes in you. And as simple as that sounds, there are your listeners and viewers they're going to believe in themselves and say, I want to build a business or grow my business. I want to do this thing this year. And we go out there and we actually meet our own self-doubt, and we convince ourselves out of our intentions. Or someone around us laughs at our idea, and brings us down. So the starting point is remembering that every human being on the planet, there are no extra people on the planet. Every single person on the planet has an inner hero and a higher source of wisdom that is real within you. You might not believe it because the world has made you small and you don't believe in yourself. Start to own your inner hero and your primal genius. That's the starting point. Otherwise, you're not going to do anything. And the second tactic, it's simple. Read the book, join the 5 a.m. club, commit to it. It's like saying, I want to learn Italian. You do it for 6-7 days. I'm not fluent in Italian. I guess I'm not the kind of person who can speak Italian. Commit to it and commit to it until you wire it in as a habit for at least 66 days. And then run the 20-20-20 formula. That's it. Because when you own your morning, your days, you'll have more energy, creativity, productivity, more faith, more serotonin. You'll feel more relaxed, more peace. And then it'll be then you do the other rituals in the book, because then it'll be an upward spiral of success. But just do that one 5 a.m. club 20-20-20 formula starting point.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
Robin, thank you so much, mate. This has been such an awesome interview, and you went deep, and I love that you shared this with so much excitement, so much passion, and this is what it's about. It's like, you're the example of how people should also live in their ideas and how they should live in their vision as well. So thank you so much for that.
You're absolutely welcome. I really enjoyed being with you both, and hopefully we help a lot of people. So thank you both very much.